Hey everybody, welcome aboard, and sorry for the delay in getting us started. Had a few little IT difficulties and we are all up and running. If we could possibly get everybody just to come on board and write us a little message to say that you can hear us, you can see us, and everything is all good, that would be great. All good? Great. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. I want to introduce Vanessa. Vanessa, maybe if you want to tell everyone a little bit about, your role and about your expertise. You look after the office here and
look after the team and just make sure things are running smoothly.
Okay, cool.
Been here with you guys for just over 2 months.
Yeah.
Right, and things are starting to look great now.
I'm so excited to have you here, Vanessa.
Thank you.
It's managing your assets is something that's really important, right? Like a lot of people go and purchase a property, spend $250,000 to $500,000 on a property, and generally they send it back to the real estate. I actually got a little tie on today. People were like, Nathan, you keep wearing ties and stuff, and today we want to get the tie, and this is what we're all about, right? Because like real estate agents suck, right? Who trusts a real estate agent looking after their assets, right? People always, they buy a property and they trust their local real estate agent that is in their area and whatnot. And I set up this business, Blink Property, almost a decade ago now. And, I guess set it up because I didn't like real estate agents. I didn't like the fact of what they did and how they manage a property. So I can see here, Luke has written real estate agents suck balls like recruiters. So I've always made it my mission with Blink to run our office like a hedge fund and to deliver an experience that's much different to what a real estate agent would do. And that's why we've got the tie, we've got the scissors, and we can sort of put on the camera that we're cut the ties with real estate agents. So we've got the tie here, I've got the rest of the tie here, and we're a little bit different than the other real estate offices.
That does look different.
It does look a bit different, right? I just saw here Luke wrote in, live life on your terms, and I guess our thing is to help our investors live life on their terms and be able to achieve the things they want, when they want, how they want. And one of the big things I see with real estate agents out there, they just get 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old managing your assets. I'm trying to touch my tie and grab the end of it now, right? But they get inexperienced people to manage your assets, where your assets are there to help you retire and live life in your terms. And I'm going to take the rest of my tie off because we're ditching the tie, right? We don't do the normal real estate agent thing. If any real estate agents out there want a tie, there's a half a tie for you. Just go and fight over it. But with it, someone just wrote here to tie up the real estate agent. So no tie Wednesday. That's it. So no real estate agents either. So Vanessa brings a wealth of experience. She teaches me lots of things on a day-to-day basis with how she runs the team, and a great deal of confidence since you've come on board. I've been very blessed to get you to be a part of our team. How long have you been in real estate for? Without
close to 30 years.
30 years. 30 years.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seen a lot of changes over the years?
Heaps. Things are getting better.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people are starting to realize the value of property and look for valuable people to manage their properties.
I've seen here, Vanessa is a great addition to the team. So
thank you.
You're getting some love out
Who's
there.
That?
Luke. So we never put out people's surnames. We just say their first names as well. So.
All right.
But yeah, like I'm assuming over the years, like I know, I bought my first property. How long? It was about 17 years ago now. I bought my first property, and I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. Actually, about 2 years ago, had a house burned down with a real estate office, and they never paid my insurance.
Oh,
and they've been paying it for 10 years, and they didn't pay the insurance, and the house was burned down. And lucky we've got our bulldog gangster lawyer that's out there to sue the agent, and it's still an ongoing thing. And it's, you know, there's been really good stories out there, and you know, ugly things I've seen. I'm sure you've seen that over 30 years.
Yes, definitely. And I don't know if anybody knows, but since the 23rd of March 2020, there were new legislation out. So a lot of things have changed for the better for investment properties. And things like, you know, people take for granted smoke alarms, water, efficiency certificates, pools, compliance certificates, all that's become absolutely compulsory. And making sure your property is a bit more habitable. Sometimes you get a property that's old and people tend to put off what they, you know, just to get it fixed up. Little minor things could make a big difference. Even cutting the lawn would make a difference, isn't it?
The attraction of, you know, if I wear my tie, right, people think I must be smart because I wear a tie, right? I wear my thongs and whatnot, people think, oh, the opposite. Same with a property. And I think quite a lot over the years I've seen, you know, riff-raff sort of tenants that come in, and you know, if the place isn't taken well care of, you won't attract that tenant that will take care of it.
Good tenants, yes. And also talking about good tenants, we check them thoroughly. So there's a lot of ways to check tenants, and I think we do most of them to make sure we've got the best ones on board.
We'll run through each of the things shortly. I've got a few questions. So do you have legislation you want to keep people up to date with? Or?
Well, some of the things I'll just bring up. One was, of course, making sure your property is well maintained, so it's habitable. The smoke alarms. Then you've got the water efficiency certificates that have to be put in place. Otherwise, you can't claim water usage. Then make sure the tenancy agreements are in order. Break fee has changed, so now there's a different sliding scale. Before there was a different scale of 6 weeks. That's no longer. If you're signed up in your lease with the 6 weeks, of course that still stands. But any new tenants, there is a sliding scale.
So if the tenant wants to break their lease and just walk out, so if they sign up on a 12-month lease.
So it's basically, it used to be 6 weeks. Now it's on a sliding scale. So there is a little bit of a formula that's involved.
So the lease means nothing. The tenant can move out, is that right?
Not really. We've got the bond, and we also make sure their rent's paid up to date, and we check that they maintain the property.
But if someone signs a 12-month lease, they can move out.
No, there is this. You've got the sliding scale. So you've got 3 weeks if 25% or less. Then they have to pay the rest of the rent. If it's so it goes from 25% to 49%. If it's 3 weeks rent, 2 weeks if it's after the halfway mark, to 74%. And 1 week if they pass the 75% of their lease. So if they've got a 1 year lease, so you know.
So if I was in a lease and I moved in a property today, and I wanted to just go, no, I want to move back out, I could technically give you 4 weeks notice and just waive my lease. Is that what we're saying?
No. There is. It's probably best to explain it in detail. So it's, you know, I'm trying to just explain it right now on camera. It's a bit hard, but if you look at it, it's basically in the first 3 weeks. I mean, 3 weeks rent in the first 25% of your lease. Okay, and then it goes basically on a sliding scale. So 2 weeks if you're halfway through it. And then 1 week if you've got only less than 75% gone through your lease.
So basically the laws that are coming out from fair trading all around the country, different states, whatnot, they're getting tighter for landlords.
Well, tighter for landlords, but also, you know, if you've got a good property manager, then they need to keep on top of things, make sure terminations go out in time after the 14 days, on the 15th day you send your termination notice out.
Yeah.
And if you forget that, that's not good.
Yeah.
Because you're not capitalizing the asset for your landlord.
Yeah.
Cool. I think there's so many things.
I know that one thing that I'm very, very confident with Vanessa is that, can everyone hear us? Because I'm getting someone saying that they can't hear properly. Yeah, cool. Yeah, everyone's cool. So yeah, I just had someone not being able to hear that came to us. Thanks for that. But yeah, Vanessa, I know one thing that I have like great confidence in is seeing the level of process and procedure and policy. And I think, when you're investing $250,000, $500,000, $1 million into a property, or into the millions as you have a portfolio, there's lots of things that could, there's lots of risk when doing so, but we want to remove all that risk. And as a property investor myself, always looked at how can I remove all of the downside risk when doing a deal. And I think the crucial element in maintaining my portfolio has always been having the right asset manager look after that asset.
Yeah, it's like the other day with the tenant wanting to move in early.
I remember that. Yes.
Right. So normally everybody says, "Oh, why not? They've got the truck ready to get their stuff across," and then you find out their lease actually starts on the Saturday, and they're asking for the keys on the Friday. Now, if you give the keys on the Friday and something happens to the property, or the items that they've left at the property are stolen, who's going to pay for that? Insurance is not going to pay for it, and the landlord shouldn't be paying for it.
If they have a party and
they might damage the
something. Or,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just little things like that, and many times the property manager will say, "Oh no, you can have the keys," because they're too lazy to bother to work that out.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, with it, so ultimately, like, someone wanted to move in. What the situation that Vanessa had, it was quite ironic because
I was really
standing your
ground. You can't get those keys.
The tenant had come in our office and out of our office multiple times. Said, "I've spoken to this person that told me I can come in," and it's like it's not the way it's going to be. And quite often we won't. We'll get onto it more later about how we choose our tenants and whatnot, but the tenant thought it was perfectly fine to move in. However, legislation wouldn't protect the owner. So Vanessa was like, "No, it's not going to happen. You can come back in the morning and get it, and we'll come out and drop the keys to your house on Saturday morning and meet you there." So, yeah.
One of our team members did that, actually.
Yeah. So I've got lots of things to cover off this evening. And I can see some questions coming through. I've got a question here from Melinda and Amanda. I'm going to keep questions to the end of this, just so we can keep things squared off on. Any questions that you've got, please feel free to put them in the comment section. We will see those questions as they come through, and we will go through at the end and answer any of your questions that you may have around property management. The elephant in the room being the current rental market. A lot of people are concerned about the current situation that's going on out there, economy, and today we've actually announced that we're technically in a recession, officially in a recession, which is surprise, surprise. I actually commented 18 months ago that we're going to go into depression. And,
wow.
So I was ready for it, right? And all of our owners and all of our investors were ready and prepared for it. But a lot of people are scared in the current rental market and thinking, if my tenant leaves, will I be in trouble? How long will it take to get a tenant? Maybe if you can give us a bit of a rundown just on what's happening out there in the market, are properties renting?
We hardly have any properties to rent at the moment. And the main thing is to keep on top of it. So checking what the other properties are going for. And letting our landlords know. And if you need a bit of sprucing up to the property, like just a lick of paint might change things. Maybe you have to just update the carpet, because carpets should be changed every 10 years normally. I mean, some tenants look after the carpet, right? So then you don't have to change it. But if if they, you've had a few tenants go through, then it'd be worthwhile just doing that. And it's not expensive. You can do that in, $2,000, and it brings a better return.
Yeah.
So.
And so just in short, like, so what are the rents like at the moment? Like, how many, say, due to the health crisis, inverted commas out there, like, how many rents have we reduced?
None.
No? None, right?
None.
We
I mean, people haven't even come to us to say, listen, I haven't, I want to reduce my rent. So they're all paying their rent. I mean, now and then you get the odd one.
Yeah, we get the occasional delinquency.
Yeah, but not serious ones where they.
Yeah. We're not paying you $300, we're paying $200. One of the things that have been important, and we'll get into it a bit later, is like one of our colleagues comes from the debt collection background, and processes and follow up and all that sort of stuff to make sure that the people honouring their commitments when they're taking out a lease is very important. And I know, obviously for those of you that are watching, we manage properties in all different parts of the country, and we've made sure, like, throughout the whole business, there's not even been one example, one case where we've had to reduce or negotiate the rent on behalf of the tenant to a landlord. Everyone is paying their full rent. And the questions that we ask, I remember in the Gold Coast, I was talking to one of our senior staff up there, and she mentioned that that a tenant had tried to say, I'm going to not pay the rent. I need a rent
because of the virus.
The virus, yeah. And we asked them questions, right? And it was like, so did you lose your job? Did you? And I was like, yes, we lost our job. It's like, can you show us the proof that you lost your job? It's like, great. Now that you've got that proof, you confirm that you're eligible for the job seeker or whatever it is, and you're able to.
Job seeker and stuff.
And reminding the tenants that they're contractually obliged on a civil manner that if you don't pay your rents, then you're going to be, it's a debt. We'll be chasing you. We'll take you civilly. We will sue you. We will come for the debt that's owed to the owner. Yeah.
Another thing which a lot of agents don't realize is if you had to ask your owner, landlord, to drop the rent, and they decided, or sometimes landlords have come to us and said, drop the rent, please, in this environment.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is your insurance company is not going to cover it. They're going to cover the bottom amount, not the original rent.
Yeah.
So it's best to keep it as it is.
And I was thinking that when I was filling up the cup of water, I was actually thinking of it as a good that we're on the same page. Exactly. What's the vacancy market like out there? What's the market's doing? Like, how many properties, like percentage plays there? So if we look at this time last year or this time 24 months ago, what is the vacancy in the market like?
I think we had 2% last month, wasn't it?
Yeah,
2% was showing up as 2%.
It wasn't 2% because we only had like 3 or 4 properties that were coming up vacant, that weren't even vacant. But with the amount of properties out there, I know this time last year I was actually doing the open homes myself. The amount of stock that was on the market was a very, very different market. I personally went out and did open homes on behalf of the owners, just so I could get a feel of what's happening with the owners' assets, where are they at, and to see what the tenants are doing in the market. And I've noticed this year like a big reduction in the amount of rental vacancies. I remember last year we had like 20, 30 properties vacant at different times, and now it's like 2 or 3 properties that are vacant, and not much. Yeah.
And the people that are they're staying longer because they don't want to move, they don't know what's happening out there, so they'd rather stay put. Yeah.
And we saw that article the other day. We were talking about it before we came online about the realestate.com article where they said that what's happening with rents out there, what's happening in the rents with the rent prices at the moment.
Well, I think even though if they might be static at the moment, but they're sure to go up.
Yeah.
Because there will be a shortage eventually.
Yeah. We've got.
And if you're in the right place right now with the property, that will help, won't it?
I always talked about having a recession-proof property portfolio, buying sort of blue collar, blue chip. I call it blue collar, blue chip. They're in the cities, but they're like the blue collar sort of properties. The abundance for people wanting affordable accommodation at this period of time, especially as we enter into an inflationary territory, our owners are seeing that rent and that cash flow coming through because the rents are low and there's lots of stimulus packages and support there too. It's affordable housing for people. So buying the right properties at the same point is crucial. Yeah.
And you were saying something about the getting good tenants so we could help them find a property for themselves in the future as a landlord, an investment property.
Exactly. So it takes us on to our next slide, which is we treat our investments like, and our owners' investments like it's a hedge fund. So, over 30 years in real estate, what maybe like a typical scenario, like you've been here for a few months now, what is a bit different? Like some of the things that you may have picked up, like just from like coming in for the interview or coming in and working and being in the business, like what are some of the things that you've seen that are different? Like you've got real estate agents who are thinking they're incubating a rent roll to a sale, or compared to,
basically, I suppose I've noticed that a lot of people are looking for properties in an environment like this. And I'm thinking like not rentals, I'm talking about buying. That is absolutely amazing that people are still thinking of buying in spite of everything that's going on around. And it's the best time to buy because there are a lot of properties that are for sale that are not going, and you're looking at the other side where you can capitalize from that for your owners.
I'm thinking more like the mindset as well, like real estate officers. The reason why we cut the tie with the real estate agents is that these guys are out there trying to, I speak to my owners once a year to see what's happening with their portfolios and their position and what they can do to improve their position. But, I speak to people sometimes that they're not with us and then they're with a normal real estate agent, and I'm asking like, where's your property? Like we bought property 2 years ago. And they're like, I was actually on the phone to someone the other night and he may be watching. So if you are watching, I'm going to talk about your scenario. I was talking to someone the other day and he bought a property for about 500 and he lived in it, and then he went and bought another property for 500 and he lives in that, and he rented out his old property. And he asked me on our map session, was like, should I sell my property off? He's telling me he's selling it, and I was like, what are you selling it for? He goes, I'm going to be selling it at a loss of about 40 grand. And I said, why are you selling the property off for? And he goes, I've just reduced the price on it. I'm like, but why are you selling it for? And he goes, because it's not a good investment. I was like, why do you think it's not a good investment? And he said to me, oh, because the real estate agent told me that I should sell it, right? And I was just like, that is the dodgiest thing. And if it was for my personal interest, I could say, sell it, spend money with us, we'll buy some new properties. But that asset was actually a very good property that you had. And if you had sold it, then it wouldn't be the right advice. And I see all too often that, real estate agents' goals aren't aligned with owners' goals. And where I talk about that we treat, Blink and our asset management firm like a hedge fund, is that we don't sell properties, we only manage properties. We don't have a sales team, we're just managing them. From a perspective of the goals, like I don't know many real estate, in your 30 years of real estate, working in real estate, have you ever seen a real estate agent ask an owner what are their goals? Why did they buy the property?
No.
No?
only when they're selling a property to them because they want to sell them something else, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, no.
And so it's important to make sure that your property manager, real estate agent, whoever's looking after your property, is what are their goals? Like, who are they? Who is the person that's managing your property? What are their goals for your property? How can they help you reach your goals? Are your goals aligned? And
not only that, if they don't have a property themselves, how are they going to find that? How to look after yours?
What's the average age of someone in property management?
Yes, like very young. Just out of school sometimes.
Just out of school, 18, 19, 20. You know, Snapchat's the most important thing going on their day. You know, I've seen it over the years, like throughout the business, like I've had lots of staff, and it's like you're not the right fit. And finally, after like about 8 years, I'm like, put the right people at the right places in the business. So yeah, high five. So with it, it's we've got the right people, but I've seen over the years, like most of the property management staff out there in the industry, you know, the biggest, you know, thing in their day is, oh, let's take a Snapchat and put some dog ears on.
I used to get annoyed with them because they're looking at Facebook and you know, one of the other ones.
It's they should be looking at realestate.com, looking at what else is out there on the market.
They can help
understand the numbers. Ultimately, you know, as an investor owning 200 plus properties, I always think about the cash flow, the money in, the money out. How can I reduce my expenses, and how can I increase my cash flow? And that bit in the middle is what's you know, the profit. And I've always talked about from day one, treating your investing like a business, treat your property business like a business. And I think, you know, when running my businesses, I always think about, you know, how can we help our owners, you know, maximize their cash flow from, you know, increasing those rents as high as we can, and keeping the costs down. And I want to run through a few of those strategies this evening as well with you all. You know, obviously you want to make sure that whoever it is that's managing your portfolio, there's a crucial part, and sometimes they're the driver whether you are retired or not. I can see that I've got Michelle that's watching us today from Queensland, and so Michelle's our licensee.
Hi, Michelle.
She's from Queensland, and up in Queensland there's a different sort of market. Some of the properties that we've purchased over the years, we buy them and there's an on-site management. So imagine having a block of 20 units and there's an owner in there that manages all the rentals. When you have an on-site manager managing a property, I love buying properties off these people because when they sell them, they want to retain the management because they've paid like a 10 times multiplier, not like a real estate office, which would pay, like talking business terms of how this office would be worth, but their business is, they have to keep that management. And they never look after the landlord. They're pro-tenant and not pro-landlord. They're living on site, the tenant comes down, they knock on the door, hey, I need an aircon. Okay, we'll think about it. Knock, knock, I want an aircon, whatever. Next minute, they're like calling the owner up and say, just put a bloody aircon in there. You know? And they're looking after their own interests. The rents on those sort of things are sort of 30. I did some numbers on it about a year ago, and about $35 a week less in rent. 35 bucks a week times 52 would be just under $2,000 a year. About 1,800 from memory, just from a quick calculation on my head, would be what you would be losing from having the rent so low. So if you had 10 properties and you're missing out on 10, 20, 30 bucks a week, that adds up to thousands. And you know,
I mean, just $10 makes a difference, doesn't it?
I've got a calculation on you for everyone later, a slide about it. You need to be proactive about your rent. You want to make sure you've got the most amount of cash flow coming through, and you want to make sure that you've got someone representing you that is pro-landlord to get that extra cash flow. So yeah, looking at vacancy, that is a very big one. And I think more so over the last, I thought about this a little bit maybe 3 years ago when we were heading into a bit of a recession. There was a bit of a glut on the market of rentals. So I think the downfall of the rental market occurred about 3 years ago, plateaued out probably at the start of this year, and it's, I wouldn't say we're in a rental boom, but we're starting to come out the other side of that. I thought about this. This is just some very clear numbers to show you how, you know, I would vision it, and Vanessa would, as a business would, you know, how can we minimize that vacancy and how can we maximize the cash flow? So if we look on the screen here, to an owner, let's assume that the rent is $300 per week coming in. And I'll just put here Blink cash flow / landlord cash flow. 1 week's management fee. It's not $20 per week, it's a percentage of whatever the rent is. But I just did this as a bit of an example. If we had one property vacant, $300 a week. If it's vacant for 4 weeks, the owner is losing $1,200. Right? That's a lot of money.
Yes.
If you've got 10 properties and it's vacant for 4 weeks in a year, that's $12,000 a year cash flow that you're losing. I look at it from this side, and then just simple numbers, right? If we've got 1,000 properties that are vacant for 1 week in a year and we're charging $20 a week, there's 20 grand we're missing out on. If they're vacant for 4 weeks, there's $80,000 that we're missing out on. So we've got to put strategies in place to minimize that cash flow loss from a business perspective, because our goals as a business are in line with our investors.
And we're not making money that way, isn't it? If it's empty.
No one's
empty,
making money.
nobody. Landlords are not, we're not. So the main thing is just to check what's out there and what the rents are. And then if we have to reduce it $10 to get somebody in, and then increase it down in 6 months.
Yeah. So one thing that we've implemented in the past, and I know you're really big on as well, is ratchet clauses. So maybe if we can.
So basically, if you reduce the rent for say by $10, but then in 6 months' time, and you can put that in your lease agreement as well, that in 6 months' time you might want to increase the rent to back to $300 or $310 for that matter.
Yeah.
But at least you've got a tenant in the property instead of having it empty.
Yeah. So that's a good.
Other things are just making sure that the property is looking a bit, welcoming.
Yeah. And looking at it from, I've been a few little notes here as well. What sort of things can we do with the ad? Like you said about the welcoming.
Okay,
of the ad.
so we are encouraging, and we'd like anybody who has a property at the moment that's vacant to have professional advertising. So we've got a special deal at $160 for professional photography. So that straight away your property gets pulled up if it looks good on realestate.com or Domain.
Yeah.
I myself, if I'm looking at for properties to buy or whatever,
yeah.
I tend to look at the ones that look, presentable. If someone had the phone photography, it doesn't, doesn't look good.
What I love is when you see someone and you can clearly see that they've driven down the road and there's a photo. You can see the mirror and a bit of the window and the bin out the front. The promotion of the property, price, promotion, and presentation of it, which the market dictates the price. You can control as an owner, you can control the presentation of the property. How does it appear? And it's up for us to do the promotion of it. And some of the things we had to adopt when the market was tougher than what it is now was a social campaign. So we promote properties via Instagram, Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree. We get the leads in, activity, urgency and competition at open homes. So having urgency and competition amongst tenants that are out there. So they're like, wow, this property's in need. So we better make a move on it straight away.
We do also, apart from the open homes, we also do like special appointments.
Yeah.
On demand.
Private viewings. I think so. In a real estate office, so you've been in real estate for 30 years. How many properties would a staff member normally look after in property management on average?
About 200.
200. And how many do we manage here per staff? Roughly, per staff.
Per staff member, about 80.
About 80 per staff. So we've got too many headcount for the amount of properties that we manage, and that's just most importantly to ensure that we've got enough hands on deck to ensure that your property is getting looked after. We'll work together, whether it be someone else in the team, whether it be myself. Last year, I made it very visible because I used to go out to my open homes and I'd take videos and put it on my own social media and show people, what we've bought for our owners. I'm out there on the streets doing the open homes. So yeah, we make sure that we're getting it out there and getting those properties leased. What about the pre-approvals for the tenants having the tenancy database? That's something
so So there are tenants that are looking out for properties, and if they can't find something, at least we've got them on our database. But also making sure you get the right tenant.
Yeah.
Because you get the wrong tenant, that doesn't help you, the landlord. It doesn't help us as property managers. It's better to get a better tenant into the property at all times. And I think everybody knows that. They don't want horrible tenants anyway.
Yeah. And it's something that we try to pre-qualify the information. So I just got a message here. One of the messages I'll go into it said, should the landlord have direct contact information of their property manager so they can call them directly? Yes, they should
do
have that. As well as, from a business perspective, we want to make sure that we've got access to all the tenants. So I remember last year when I was doing it very vividly, there was this tenant, and he was a migrant, and he presented very well, and I was like, wow, what are you doing looking at this rental property?
Yes.
And this guy was really lovely, and he was, no one had actually given him the love that he sort of needed to get into a rental property. And these guys were out in Western Sydney, in one of the roughest sort of areas in Western Sydney. We're looking for something, and I was like, what are you guys doing here? They were well presented, and they're on like 70, 80 grand a year each. So like on 120, they should be buying a property, right?
Exactly.
And they were just looking to get a rental property of $300 a week. And I got them from that property, and it wasn't suitable for them. And I was able to take it to another property and lease it out. The property wasn't even on our rental books. It was something that I knew that was a part of our rental. And I was able to get that management because I took the tenant and I had the tenant free for them. Yeah. And
you basically help them, right?
Well, that's what we do. That's what we're doing. And it's important, as we go to the next slide, is like how to get better tenants. What we realize as a business, we'll look at the business more as a community, and just think about it for yourselves that are watching this. Are you a tenant, or do you own a property, right? If you do own a property, did you used to own an investment property and rent-vest, or did you have a property before? Most of my investors, probably like half my investors, would be a tenant themselves. Right? So from a good business perspective, I look at the tenant. Could that tenant be an investor themselves? So I look for the ability to be able to transform our tenants into investors. People that think they could never buy a property, people that think that they're out of luck. With a bit of help and a bit of education, we're turning tenants into investors. So our investors are buying rental properties. We get our tenants to buy investment properties as well. And you can't have a tenant buying investment properties if they can't pay their own rent. So nurturing those tenants to keep close to zero as possible percentage of rent arrears is really crucial, because that means the staff don't have to be on the phone chasing tenants. We don't have to send the heavies over to go get the rent out of them. Not that we do that. Not that we do that. Sometimes I feel like we have a problem, but
most of them are pretty decent.
We make sure we get the better tenants, so we don't have to go down that road. I'm sure over 30 years you've seen tenants come in with colourful language, and I can't even swear in front of Vanessa, right? I can't swear in front of her. But I'm sure you've seen colourful people that have come in and
they don't come to me.
They don't come to you?
No.
Look at how confident she is.
No, they don't. I don't know.
Vanessa makes sure that bad things don't happen because you've sort of looked.
You don't focus on that, do you?
Exactly.
It's going to be good for you.
How do we screen the tenants? Like, what do we look at?
So we look at how long they've been in their jobs. We actually ring the place of work and find out if they left, would they miss them? Like, would they, why do they like having them there? And how long have they been there?
Yeah.
And you get a better feel. Make sure you speak to the right person, because they can give you their friend's phone number. You make sure you got the manager and check that out and things like that. Also databases, a lot of databases that you can find out. You check their background there on the database, make sure they're paying their rent, their ledgers from where they are.
Their Equifax.
Actually, I've actually been past where they've been living before, just to make sure, what does the front look like?
Yeah.
So then you could get an idea of what their property is like, and then you might come, why are you wanting to change places?
Yeah.
Then they'll tell you, okay, the landlord's selling, or I've been there so long, so you've got
Trying to RV data, make sure there's no listing, see if there's a listing. The other thing is that I think is really important as well is like the bank statements to make sure, like, are they sports betting every day?
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know,
there's a whole list of things that we have on our application process. So.
Yeah. Cool. And we also go and look for the people and look for see how they behave, their behavioural patterns. So like you can quite often see if someone's on Facebook and if they're writing there saying, you know, if this is an outrage, everything's a problem, you know you're going to have a problem.
You're giving away secrets.
Tell people what we're doing, you know. So we look after owners. We want the best tenants out there.
You get a lot of information from Facebook, don't you?
Yeah.
About a person.
A lot of people just put all their life out there, and it's like, you know, if you put the wrong tenant in, you're going to have them causing problems, not just for you as an owner, but you know, we're going to have to deal with them. And
yeah, we don't want that.
We have a lovely office here. We don't want them rocking up at our door, whinging every 2 minutes. So
not only that, it's a headache for us. Then you go to tribunal, and not to say, I've been to tribunal a few times, and I might say I'm very good at that. So, but the thing is,
you don't want to do that.
Sorry?
I haven't had to see you do that.
Oh, not here, not here.
So great, that's good.
No, you try to avoid that. Right? But sometimes tenants, there'll be a tenant like in our past experience, you get a tenant, place is fine, but all of a sudden they want carpet changed.
Yeah.
And it's tiled, it's only 4 years old, the property, I want the carpet changed.
It doesn't match my lounge.
No.
Yeah.
Things like that, so, you know.
And one of our staff worked in a debt collection firm, and we sort of implemented some of the understandings of how sort of like a collection agency would work. Obviously, we've got to work with the Act to make sure that, you know, we're not putting anyone at jeopardy of how we chase those rents and whatnot, but, you know, trying to get something out of the tenants, trying to arrange payment plans. If there is a tenant default or something does occur, we want to minimise, you know, that cash flow that could be in your pocket. You know, if a tenant doesn't pay rent, that's not the worst thing in the world because you have insurance policies, but we don't want to get to that. So we try and minimise at each step, but we've always got another sort of, you know, barrier there to protect everyone from. So
the insurance is the last resort, isn't it?
Exactly. Any other comments for how to get better tenants?
Make sure you put a little liquor paint on the place, cut the grass.
Yeah.
Do the edges, not just cut the grass. Try and do the edges, make it look neat.
I've seen some shocking ones out there. They cut the grass and there's bits of grass hanging out on the side.
Exactly.
Yeah. You'll find the tenant that has the beard, you know, when they shave the beard, they've got bits of patches on the beard still. Like that's the tenant you'll find for your house. It'll treat it like that. So cool. The other thing, like, I know that we've had discussions about this offline. About understanding like owners' goals and whatnot. Have you ever seen any real estate offers?
No.
Karen?
No.
Straight up.
Like I said, only when they want you to buy another property.
Something, yeah. So, you know, as Vanessa said beforehand, like no one, you know, if your property is vacant, no one's getting paid on that. It needs to be rented. You need that cash flow flowing through. So, you know, some of the things that you want to make sure of is like, you know, who is that property manager? What are their goals? What are their intentions? How are they helping you? Who is the team behind it? I know for my investors, I do annual reviews of their portfolio, do quarter reviews of all the portfolios. So what I mean by that is Vanessa will bring a list of all the properties that we manage, and I will go through them. I don't have a highlighter. All I have is my pair of scissors that were fluoro green, but I will get my highlighter out and I will highlight my investors' properties in the portfolio that I feel could have a rent increase, and then we'll go online and see what other properties are currently on the market for lease and what have recently tenanted for. See if there's the opportunity to push $10 here, $15 there, $20 there to get the maximum rent on their behalf. So, you know, how proactive is your agent? Is your real estate agent one of those agents that are 18 years old, Snapchatting all day, doggies, you know, whatever. I've seen so much of it, right? And you're laughing because it's true. Like,
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It is. It's like if we, I'll show an example of something on the other slide, but it'll all make sense when I show that. But when was the last time your real estate agent asked you? These are some of the questions that I think of. What did your cash flow look for the last financial year? Is there anything we can do to improve your portfolio? How can we help you build that portfolio? You've bought an investment property, we manage a property for you. How has that property performed? Is there something we can do to tweak it for you? Is it something we should be looking at? Should we add another dwelling to it? Is it something we could, you know, do something to do a renovation to? Looking at your portfolio and saying, what could we do to remove some expenses? Has your property manager looked at your portfolio and been like, okay, we've seen that you've had an abnormal amount of plumbing work done at your property, right? And this has cost you $3,000 last year. What we proposed that we send a plumber out, fix up that issue, so next year we don't have any issues. And you know, being proactive. Yeah. When was the last time your real estate agent asked you about your mortgage? When was the last time your real estate said, you know, what is your interest rate like? Is there anything we can do to reduce your expenses and increase your cash flow to help you make this property perform and get you closer to your overall goal? Is that a question a real estate agent would ask? Have you ever heard a real estate agent ask that?
Very few.
Yeah, normally they'll say, hey, are you thinking of selling yet?
Yeah.
It's always the sale.
Yeah. Because they're not looking at your side.
Yeah.
Like you're looking to help them with getting another property.
I want you to have more cash flow.
Exactly.
I want you to get extra $100 a week. I want you to have 2 properties, 4 properties, 10 properties in your portfolio. Yeah, so with it, yeah, like has your real estate agent asked you and spoken to you about opportunities that they've seen for you to be able to increase your equity in your property? Like, hey, look, one of our owners down the road or in the same complex has the same property. He was able to get an extra 50 grand equity out because he did this. We could put you in contact with a tradesperson. You know, you be able to, you know, do a renovation, pull some equity out. Perhaps that could be another property you could buy and bring on board with us. You know, how is your real estate agent looking after your position, which is very different. Yeah. So as I was saying, like, are you and your property manager on the same journey, right? How can we maximize return? Because one property, if you could boost that rent just by $10 per week, that's an extra $520 per year. 10 properties, if you have 10 properties, and you increase the rent by $10 per week, that's an extra $100 a week in your portfolio. That's $5,000 a year extra cash flow. If you just did that simple task of $10 per week every year, that's an extra, you know, $500 a year per property, extra $5 grand a year. In 10 years of doing that, that's 50 grand a year. Someone's retirement. Yeah. Real estate agents don't look at this stuff. Have you ever heard real estate agents say this stuff before in the past? Or like,
no.
Look at them. I look at, if we're charging a 7% management fee, let's just call it, right? That extra $10 per week that an owner would be getting, that'd be 70 cents to us, right? It's like, it's not that much, you know. One of those real estate agents with the dog ears, they're like 18 years old, 20 years old. Oh yeah, whatever they're doing to get their Snapchat up, they wouldn't be. They're like, no, don't put the tenant's rent up. The tenant's my friend. They come in every week, right? I don't want the tenant complaining. Imagine if we had. This is a number that really blew my mind. I thought about this basically on day one in inception of the business. Is that if I had 1,000 properties that I manage and I bump the rent by $10, right? Strength comes in numbers.
Yeah.
$10 a week times 1,000 is $10,000 a week in extra revenue. Right? If we charge you 7% on that, that's, you know, $700 a week. Right? That's nearly 40 grand a year. if we just send out one email and get $10 per week for each of the owners of 1,000 properties, if we've got 10,000, then that's $7,000 per week that we're getting just by doing one action, one little action.
And it helps the owners too.
The owners, that's collecting an extra, if we push it up by $10 per week times 1,000, it's an extra 520,000 a year, $500,000 on our owners. If we had 10,000 managements, that'd be $5.2 million a year of extra revenue that we're generating. Does your real estate agent have that sort of view and vision for your portfolio? Are they connected with you on that front from a holistic approach, even just by looking at how can they help and best serve? They're just there to interest themselves on how to, get their listing and sell your property.
And also, the other thing that many people complain about is real estate agents not contacting them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're changing that to be a lot better with our office from now on. So
that's something that with the I see the question there saying real estate agents use car salespeople. That's why well, I actually
not us.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like we cut the ties, right? What I thought was really weird last year is when I was doing all these open homes. Just think about it, right? Vanessa met me for the first time. I was wearing a suit and stuff, and then the second time she met me, I was wearing a suit, and she goes, "Oh wow, you must be having a casual day. You've got a pair of thongs on." I'm like, "No, I'm dressed up very formal just because you're here, right?" and then it's gone downhill from there. Like you see me in jeans and a t-shirt and stuff most of the time. And I didn't really think much about it, and I just went on with my day as I always do. Talk to people no matter what walk of life. I walk into a bank or a meeting with my thongs, so whatever.
I saw that.
I speak to big lawyers and I wear thongs, doesn't matter who it is. And here I am doing the open homes at properties, and I'm wearing thongs for the t-shirt, right? And they're all standing around like, "Oh, where's the real estate agent come, right?" And I'm like, "Look, I'm just here to help out. I'm helping you guys show the property." So I was like, sort of connecting with them on a level which is different than a real estate agent as well. And it was just a funny story that they're like, I was thinking, oh shit, these guys are expecting the guy in the suit, and they're getting a guy in a pair of thongs. So yeah.
But you're the boss, see?
We're all just humans, right? We're just humans. So,
people don't realize it.
No.
That's why, tell everybody, treat the tenants well, treat the landlords well. The tenants one day will be our landlords.
Yeah. Cool. Chris, we will look at your message later and come back to you. So with the properties, it's already said for us to chat about it later, that's something different. With your property, right, like over the years, like you've seen lots of different properties, some rent quicker than others. These are both, I actually find both these pictures from the slide deck, they actually both look good. But like with it, one looks more renovated than the other one, etc. What do you have to go and renovate a kitchen to make it look nice? Or that kitchen,
there are times, but those two pictures are pretty decent, I think.
I'd be able to have the top one, the bad one in any of my rental properties, or most of them. So what little things can an owner do to maximize their cash flow? Like, could we do something that might cost? I have this rule that, like, and this is like, I'll be very careful when I say this. I did a big episode of this in a mentoring program I did beforehand on the returns. So I'm going to spend sort of 10 grand on a renovation on a property. I want to see a return of like $50 a week. $50 per week times 52 weeks is $2,600 per year. 2,600 is 26% return on the 10 grand investment.
But the thing is, sometimes you don't have to spend that much, right? You might spend like 2,000 or even less than that. If you try and do, paint yourself, a neat job if you're a good painter.
I think the terrible ones, right? The terrible ones.
You go all over the place and expect the return. No, it doesn't work that way.
I've painted every speck of paint in the soft burst.
Wow.
And with carpets laid.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good professional job.
Just too many times over the years. What other things? So painting can spruce up the inside.
Just little things like the lawns is definitely one.
Yeah.
Front door.
Yeah.
Sometimes if the front door looks terrible and it's, coming apart, might as well fix that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just needs a little screw to be tightened, or the water's dripping. Just make sure the taps are not dripping, the toilets are clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've always thought about too is that, like, you want to get someone out of the car into the property, right? So on the outside of you, it's interesting.
It's the main thing, outside.
The grass, like, you can literally, there's a property that we just leased of mine. It was a house out in Western Sydney, and John leased that one. And in the backyard, it had grass that was like 6 foot high beforehand. I picked up this thing. It was a very unique deal of how I acquired the property. And I had to help the person remove their stuff, and that was a separate story. But the grass was so high, there was no grass. Like, you mowed it, it was just like weeds, and it was like dirt and stuff. So what I did in the process, I was thinking, like, why am I going to go out in Sydney? They may not look after the grass in the best place anyway. So I thought to myself, whilst I was doing the renovation, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, 6 to 8 weeks time, this property will be ready for leasing. And I went out and purchased a big bag of lawn seeds, and I went out there and just sprinkled lawn seeds, right? You can have patches of grass.
Yeah.
But, when the lawn sprouted and you can mow the lawn, it actually looked like a decent lawn at that point in time. And all that took was like $50, $80, $100, whatever it was, worth of lawn seeds to sprinkle on the ground.
Just very basic stuff, isn't it? Like, or make sure the light fittings are, the bulbs are working. Sometimes you go, and then there's the tenant has to pay for it now. And
they're not full of cockroaches up in there, or bugs. Yeah. So
have it professionally cleaned sometimes helps.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do it yourself, of course.
Yeah. Cool. And what sort of any other comments on the improvement side of things, or?
Well, I think it's it's common sense when you look at a property. Would you live in it?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I know sometimes you see a little property and then you think, I can live in that. Your other tenants or other people would like to live in it too. Then, but if you see something, oh no, it's an investment, and I'll leave it like that.
Yeah.
You're not willing to live in it in that condition if you have to.
Yeah.
Then why would somebody else want to?
Yeah. It flows through. People.
It's just common sense,
isn't
it?
Sense, but sometimes it's not too common out there, right?
Exactly. And the other thing is, like, if you don't do those kind of things, who are you wanting to be attracted to that property?
Yeah, yeah. As I've just seen a message here, which I'll question. Hi Vanessa, what is the best way to benchmark my investment property rent to make sure I get the best market value?
First of all, we need to see it.
Good answer.
No, we need to see it. There's so many things you can do.
Yeah, it's important to position it right, to present it well, which I think we've got a slide on that as well.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next slide. We'll get to the question. Keep the questions coming through, and we'll have a section of questions and answer shortly for you guys. So this is actually what I was just thinking of beforehand. To answer that question as to how to lease out your property quicker. What are the 3 main reasons why a property won't lease?
Condition of it.
Yeah. So presentation.
Presentation, the price.
Yeah.
And
promotion.
If you don't do professional photos and you're just taking it off with your phone, then it's not going to present well. People are going to look at the ones that are professionally done.
Yeah.
And pick those ones first.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes a property that's a bit older looks good, even if it's professionally photographed.
I love when I see a real estate office from a purchasing perspective.
Yes.
Some of you guys that might be watching this may not realise that I run an investment firm, a buyer's agency, where I purchase properties. We don't sell properties in any of the businesses. But when I buy properties, I see, from a sales perspective, real estate agents. I see some agents that I never buy off because they sell for too expensive, and some that I love buying off because they're just crap real estate agents. So I get stuff real cheap and stuff like that. And quite often, if I see a house that's got like a photo and it's just been grabbed off the internet, I'm like, this is probably like a diamond in the rough here that people won't look at that much. The agent will be sloppy. We can get. True.
You can get attracted to the ones that you look better on the ads.
And they're easier to build them on price. So like, if you're an owner and you're putting your property out in the market, especially today, like we live in a different world than what we lived in the 90s, where you'd have to take a photo or put it in the newspaper, and it could be black and white and grainy, and you know, we're not working on film anymore, right? We're not working on window cards. We don't even have a window card in any of our offices because it's all done, you know, in social media, and it's, so the marketing is really important. And one of the things that Vanessa touched on beforehand was that we're not, you know, that we've got access to a photographer, professional photography, at $165 for your property. That's crucial. Like, we should make that as a mandate in the business. If you don't do that, we don't want to do business.
I've told them, I said, not advertising any property that's not got a professional photo.
Because that represents us as a business, and we've had you know, things that go wrong in business. We've had bad feedback to us as a business because of, you know, things that owners go, we don't want to promote our property that well, or we'll be too harsh on the tenant because you've only attracted a bad tenant over the years because you've been one of those landlords. And it's something that, you know, we're here to represent the owner. We represent you as an investor to get the maximum. But you know, if you're not doing what it takes, right, to get that, then you know, we may not be able to help. We've got to be selective on that front as well. But yeah, like the promotion, like if we break it back down on the three P's of, you know, getting a property rented: the price, presentation, and the promotion. The presentation, that's your responsibility as an investor. Like, what can you do to, you know, clean it up a little bit and whatnot. Every time, like if a property becomes vacant and it's like smashed around a little bit, you know, sometimes you might get a bit of insurance payout for something, and then you know, do you take that little bit of insurance and go, okay, I'm going to fix the few taps or put a new oven in, or do I retile the kitchen, or do you go in and say, okay, well, I've got $5 grand here or $3 grand here, and it might cost me another $3 grand or $5 grand on top. Is it the right time now to go out there and do that renovation? And that's something that we need to have those conversations. You need to be having those conversations with your asset manager to see, you know, is it the right time to be able to, you know, do that renovation? Because doing, you know, you might be spending $3 grand, but if you spend another $4 grand on top, you know, you could get a better tenant, a better revaluation. You know, you could possibly add 30 grand worth of equity that you could be missing out on. There's a deposit for the next property, and that's what we specialize in here. You know, to see how we can help our investors, you know, improve their positions. So you can control the presentation, you can control the price. It's up to you. Or, you know, we're here to guide you on the price. The promotion, that's not something that you guys do. That's something that, as an asset manager, we need to do to attract the most amount of people in the net. So there's urgency and competition amongst those tenants to create competition to get the highest rental return for you as an investor.
Right. And Nathan, the other thing also, we've got people on the books, creditors, tradespeople on the books, who can do those jobs. And because we give them so much of work, they don't charge us the earth.
Yeah.
So some of those jobs can be done a lot cheaper than you would try and get it done yourself, pay somebody else to do it. We can just do it all in-house, get something done for you, just send you an idea, give you an idea of what it's worth, like the quotes from these tradespeople.
Yeah.
And so
we want you to have tenants in your property paying you the highest amount of rent, paying you the right rent. If you put a tenant in your property that's not going to be paying you the rent, you're not going to be getting the rent, and we're not going to be able to get paid either. So we both, you know, lose-lose. So it needs to be win-win, and that's, you know, the importance of us being able to guide you. You know, under Vanessa's leadership and, you know, looking at people's portfolios, we're here to make sure that we, get that for our investors. Any other thoughts or?
Not really. There's so many things that come to mind, isn't it?
A way to get your property leased quicker is to bring it to Blink. And
Oh, yes, definitely. That's, of course, for sure.
Minimizing outgoings is really important, and yeah, there's a few aspects to that, that we can help you with. Some things you can do yourself. Looking at some of the obvious, what is it?
Sometimes landlords will say, "Oh, listen, we don't want to do this repair," and it might be a minor repair, but if they put it off, it becomes a bigger repair later down the track. You got like a leaking toilet or something, and then the water is going, your water bill's higher, and then eventually you have to have it fixed, and it might be costing you like a couple of $100 now, but then down the track you've got bigger problems if you don't do it like when it happens.
I actually just bought this. Takes me to digress a little bit. I just purchased a house the other week and moved into it. It's 10 acres, and the house that's on there is like 100 years old. It's a 1920s house, and it seems cute and it's nice and that. But I plan on building another like a sandstone house on the block, and with the property, I was like, I'm just going to camp here for a little bit, live here whilst next 12 months or so build this house. And it was very different to my other house. I got a pool that comes inside, and now I've got a timber house that's like, there's people that like Hampton style would like it. And I was looking at the bathroom the other day, and I had some family over, and the floor like behind the bathroom was wet, and I was like, oh, they've put new carpet down, right? I always tell everybody, make sure you get a pest building and do all those checks when buying a property. On this property, I bought it for land value. Like we're talking about the land value, 2 doors up this sold for 17 mil, and I picked this up for 2.2 mil. So I got a bargain, massive bargain, right? 10 acres in the area I was telling you about, right? And the council actually bought the corner side, and the one next to that sold for like 15 mil, and so I didn't care about the house that much. But I realised the bathroom was leaking, and I was going to rip the bathroom out. And I was like, the bathroom, if I do the bathroom, I would rather spend that money on the bathroom in the new house that we're going to build. So I was just going to, this thing he'll rent out probably for about $800 a week.
You're going to fix the bathroom.
I'm going to fix it, right? I'm going to fix it. And I went under the house, right? And I was like, I wonder how long this has been going for. Fortunately, I've got a few bathrooms in this place. It looks small, but it's a big house. And I didn't use it for a while, and I thought what the issue was, because I saw there was some cracking around it, so I re-siliconed the bathroom just to get it by. But I hopped under the house to see if it was more sinister than that, and they had buckets under there and all this stuff, and there was some termites. Right? It wasn't
things like that.
So these people, like, now I see why they were like a bit of urgency about it, because they had replaced the carpet in a certain room, but the house was ugly, so I painted the carpet, kitchen the place. So I'll get to the bathroom shortly, because it will be a nice rental that we'll be able to get close to $1,000 a week for. And with it, and it's right in the front corner, so I can chop it off and no one will see it. It'll just look like a neighbouring house. But I was looking at it, I was like, this person has put buckets under their house and all this stuff, and it's like, if I didn't spot the damage that was there, like, I can fix it very easily now. But if they hadn't have done that, like, they were just procrastinating, doing something that botched up, that leaky shower turns into termites, wood rot, floors going. So good point is to keep them up to scratch. Some of the other things to look at is, do you pay your own bills? Do you get a property manager to pay your bills? Are you paying them on time? Are you giving the agency, if there's a shortfall, the money to pay that shortfall on the property? Late fees. People ask me quite often, do I pay my bills, or do I get the office to pay the bills? And if we break it down as to how long it would take me to pay a bill, when we do the bills, we've got our our software, which helps us manage everything and showing where the dashboards to show where the tenants are up to and all that sort of stuff. And I'll let you talk about the opposite, the flip side for the owners to hop into that portal shortly. But everything is there on the dashboard. When we do end of month, we can push a button. Sounds very simple, but there's all the work that goes to the back end.
There's a lot of work that goes in the back.
Vanessa and the team don't sit there and manually go, okay, well, let's go into the bank account and pay off a bill. Okay, first one, we've got a B pay, we'll pay that one, and then the next one, we pay the next. We don't do that for paying the bills. It's systemized in the software. I've got 200 properties myself, and those properties have a council, a water, strata, an insurance, whatever other sort of bills. There could be, say, about 4 bills per quarter that come out on a property. I could sit there and go 4 bills times 200, there's 800 bills I have to pay per quarter. And if I had to go and spend 1 minute each, that's 800 minutes. Chances are it'll take 2 minutes because the activation code on the keychain, the fob, goes every 2 minutes. So if I had to spend 2 minutes, that's 1,600 minutes to pay a quarterly bill. 1,600 minutes divided by 60 minutes, and you get the picture. It's about 24 hours of a day to pay a bill. That's what I pay a property manager to do, or an asset manager, to look after that, and managing the income and the outgoing. And that's the importance of having someone that can, run your portfolio like a hedge fund. So
then the other thing is, at the end of the day, you have everything in the one page.
Yeah.
End of the financial year, it's just one sheet of paper to give your accountant, because everything's on it. Otherwise, you have to go and look out for your bills. If you're a nice, organized person, you might have it in one spot. Some people, don't.
I'm very organized, but with so much going on in my life, it's
exactly.
This is the.
There's so many things happening every day to everybody,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So that's where we come in.
Yeah.
To look after that properties.
I've got a question there, which we'll get to shortly.
Another one.
There's lots of questions there. Keep it coming through, guys. The other thing is like, we talk a lot about increasing the rents and having good communication and whatnot, and minimizing the outgoings. When was the last time your real estate agent asked you, what is the interest rate? How much did you pay on the interest rate last year? How did they look after your position on that front? Is your real estate agent looking after how you can minimize your cash flow? All they want to know is, are you going to sell the property yet? No, you're not. That's fine. When you go to sell the property, they'll be your best friend. For us running it like a hedge fund, we want to see how you can, increase your cash flow constantly and minimize your expenses. So with that bit in the middle, we can go and acquire more assets. The more assets you buy 1 or 2, you get stuck, then, it's not good for either of us, right? You're not reaching your goals. We're not reaching our goals. We help you get to 10, 15, whatever your goal may be in your portfolio. Then you're going to want to be able to use this more. You're going to bring more properties to the table. So we're in this together, and it's important to see, how can you bring those expenses down, whatever capacity that is. So yeah. Anything else on that?
No, I think is the photography.
Here's the photography. This is just a little example of
what it looks like.
It's even the same chair. Like, look at it. It's fluoro. It's like, it's depressing there. It's like, yeah. So the difference in how you present the property. If you want a good tenant, you want to get the highest rental return,
it's not even straight.
It looks like it's out of the car window.
Yeah.
So and so for getting professional photography, those of you that are with Blink, it's $165. If you're not with Blink, we can look after it for you at $165.
Yes.
So,
and it's your pictures, so if you want them at any stage, it's yours.
Yeah. If you need them for sale or whatever the case may be.
Sale again, and you can get those pictures.
How do you cut ties? Here's a good question, right? So for those of you that joined in a little bit later, I cut my tie in half, right? Because we break ties with real estate agents. Throwing a bit. Real estate agents, my friends, we've got lots of real estate. The real estate sales agents that I've got, don't even know anything about property management.
No,
they wouldn't care if I say bad things
and
about
I've done both sides, so I know both sides of the game.
I love some of my real estate. I feel sorry for them. Like, it's like, they just work hard and stuff like that. That's a separate story. But property management, if you've got a portfolio, you've got a goal, you've got things that you want to achieve, are the people that you're employing helping you get close to your goals or further away from them? A lot of people ask me quite often, how do you break up and how do you cut ties with your real estate agent?
Give us a call and we'll tell you how.
Give us a call. As simple as that.
Yeah, well, are you going to mention the...
I will talk about that in a moment.
The email address?
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly. Okay. But like, I think quite often people, like, they say, I want to bring the property to Blink. I don't like my existing real estate agent that's out there and they're not doing the job, or they're not communicating, the rent's low, tenants taking the piss, they've asked me to reduce rent. So often, like, the agents ask me to reduce the rent, and it's like, well, why? Based on what? They should be jacking it up, right? Are they working for you or the tenant or who?
Yeah.
But they're like, I'll wait until the tenant moves out of the property and then I'll bring the property when it's vacant. So maybe, Vanessa, if you can talk, like, obviously, if you want to have us manage your property, Vanessa, the team, depending on where, where your property is located. Vanessa, sits about 5 meters away, and the whole team here sits about 5 meters away from my desk. And I run the office very tight. We've got staff all around the country. I was in the Gold Coast office when I did a Facebook Live the other week, and I've got about 15 staff on the Gold Coast just alone. In the Gold Coast, it's a very big operation there. We've got properties all the way up the coast, down the coast that we manage.
You've got a good team there.
I do. I was saying to someone the other day, like, I've got the best recruits and best human capital. Is what I look at it as, like, people that are around and on the team ever that we've ever employed, and I've been through a lot of stuff to find the best. I'm really fanatic about who's representing our investors in the firm. So
because you're serious about it.
Exactly. Like,
we want good people to look up to.
How would, apart from calling us on 1300 367 925 or flicking us an email at admin@binvested.com.au, apart from reaching out to us, what would be the normal process? Like, let's say, for instance, you've got a property, it's managed via a real estate agent there.
And it's vacant. If it's vacant, they could come across without any problem.
Okay.
If it's got a tenant, then you have to look at the management agreement, and there's a period that would be written in there for how much of notice they have to give the present agent.
30, 60 days, something like that. What would be involved? Like, let's say, for instance, you've been dealing with a real estate agent for 3 years or whatever, and you don't feel comfortable calling and say, hey, look, you're fine.
We can do it for you.
If someone said they want to come over, how easy is it? Like,
so we could actually put a letter together.
Yeah.
Right, and all they do is we could email it on their behalf. They might have to actually send it from their email address, or
we could CC them and then yeah. So technically, like, it doesn't, like, to make the switch and cut time with the real estate agent.
It's not that hard.
All you have to do is just let us know. There's a form that we can sign that gives us authority to manage your assets on your behalf, and we can even send it to the other side, to the agent. You don't have to listen to their groveling, their begging and saying, oh, please, what did I do, like a crazy ex-girlfriend? You don't have to worry about dealing with that. I've had a lot of crazy ones over the years, don't get me wrong. So I know what I'm talking about on that front. I've had good ones too. So yeah, with it, basically let us know. Bit of form needs to be signed. You don't even need to speak to your real estate office. We can take care of all of that for you. If it's in a lease, that is it. If it's not in a lease, it's very, very, simple sort of process to be able to do that. So it's not scary. The team can help you, organise that and help you generate more cash flow from your assets, along the way. So, Amanda,
We've done it so
the CEO saying, What about the crazy ex-boyfriend? I don't know about crazy ex-boyfriends, but I'm sure there's some out there. Yeah, I've never even had someone's ex-boyfriend come after me. I've never had that, but yeah,
that's good.
It's good. But I'm sure there's crazy people everywhere. So, but yeah, with that, I just saw there's some more. I'm gonna go over to you guys now. You've got your questions. There's a lot of people that that are asking questions through. So maybe we can go through, maybe a dozen questions here. We'll make the questions a bit.
Someone said something about a credit card. No, we don't want your credit card.
We'll go through each and every one of them. So let's go through each question. So I think it's the best thing yet. That's funny. Where are we at? So Steve has said, Vanessa has been a great help to some of my properties in New South Wales. What a great addition to the team. So
thank you.
It's good to be recognised.
Thank you.
Steve, if you could do a little favour and pop onto Google and write a review for Vanessa, that would be awesome.
Fabulous.
I really
appreciate
that to show the world. Sometimes our tenants don't get so happy and they might write negative reviews upon us because we're looking after our investors. So if we could, that would be awesome. Newbie question, but I may have missed this, but it is Australian-wide. This is from Chris. Look, we manage properties in most cities around the country. I'm in the process of getting the finalisation of some licensing for other states we're not in currently at the moment. So if you do have properties that are throughout Australia, feel free to be in touch, and the team will be able to help you out. We've got a lot of property management staff in all different pockets of the country. We know your areas, we know them well, we know what the markets are doing. So how come real estate agents are allowed to picture the place after you have moved in? Shouldn't they have done that before you moved in?
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, they should.
They should.
In Queensland, it's actually illegal. Like you have to sign off to say whether you will allow the agent to take photos of the property to advertise them. Like, so if you're renting a property and the property goes for sale, they're not actually allowed to just take photos and that's it. They have to get sign off if you say no photos.
I mean, it's courtesy, isn't it?
It is.
But if you have photos already done, professional photos, then you don't have to do that.
Exactly. Vanessa loves the professional photos. And
oh yes, you have to. They look so will change your life.
Yeah. Amanda asked, from a lease point of view, how would you do 2 weeks rent-free period?
I prefer not to give anything for free than they expect free things all the time.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine, but I wouldn't.
Yeah. Cheers for this webinar. A question for later. Water. As a landlord owner, I've been receiving and paying the water usage bills. Is this standard, or how often is that passed on to the tenant?
It should be passed on to the tenant all the time. With the new legislation, you have to make sure you have a water efficiency certificate, and we can do that for you. There's a little cost involved. It's not too much. And that can be done fairly easy. It's a tax deduction at the end of the day. And you're within legislation.
Yeah, you get more cash flow. Yeah. So if you want to, make sure that your tenant, and if they're compliant, have to, pay that water, you should be paying that. You shouldn't be paying that. You should be getting that refunded, recredited. So reach out to the team, and the team will be able to take care of that.
The only time you may have to just pay the water bill is when it's in a unit complex. Yeah. But even now, some of the units are actually charging water usage.
Yeah.
So.
Another question here from Chris. If the tenant leaves after the lease and we need new tenants, how do you guys advertise for new tenants? I asked this as if I was looking to rent. I would rather be going to the big name real estate to find me a property.
I didn't get that one.
I think Chris is saying that he's talking about like a franchised real estate office or something potentially over us. From when we go to advertise for a property, we go to realestate.com.
Yeah, all the major ones.
All the major sites. we do social media marketing, all that sort of stuff. So for a rental, like there's never a shortage of tenants. Like when we go out there to look for tenants, we put the hooks in all the right places. Tenants don't look at, oh, I want to go to a certain real estate office. They want a house or a unit or a townhouse to move into. And we have massive, like I actually realized that we're in the data business when it comes to like the tenants, because
everybody looks on the websites, like the real estate and domain are the major ones.
Yeah. So we've never got a shortage. We get like tens of thousands of people that are inquiring over the year, and we put them into databases and obviously try to nurture them to help them in other sort of aspects of their life. Andrea asked when we'll be opening Blink office in Victoria. We do not have in Victoria at this point. That is one of the states. It's a bit more tougher in Victoria to get. Everything's more tougher in Victoria at the moment. No laughing for our poor viewers that are in Victoria at the moment. But with it, planning to be in Victoria very, very shortly by the end of this year. If you do have properties in Victoria or an area that we don't manage at the moment, let us know, and we'll put you on the list to be in contact as soon as we open and be able to provide service for you there. We've got here, Blink staff are trained to have an investor mindset and manage properties like running a business to maximise the investment. That includes best pricing for maintenance, increase in rent reviews. So that's from someone that's one of our landlords there.
Yes.
There was one thing that I wanted to touch on as well, which I forgot to just a moment ago. I forget what slide it was, but we're talking about the software and paying the bills and all that sort of stuff. We've invested in the last 12 months lots and lots of time, energy, effort, resources, money to improve the leading sort of software out there in the marketplace to deliver a better experience for our owners. So, you know, you could be calling the real estate agent, your real estate agent, and trying to get in contact with them and all this sort of stuff, trying to chase something. But we've got real lifetime, you know, access to that data via a portal. So yes, our tenants can log on. If there's a problem, they can report it, and then it'll come up like notification. You can hop into the back end of the system and see what is happening. If we're communicating with the tenant, you can see what our activity is like at the back end. If you want to get a statement, see what the rent's up to, you've got full access to that. We should actually probably do like a training video.
Yeah, I'm still learning a little bit on that, so I won't do anything just yet.
We might get Michelle to do that.
Point,
She's a wizard on that.
Yeah, there is a way, I know.
Yeah, where you can have full access.
Yes, and even the landlords.
That's what I'm saying, the landlords have full access to it. So that's something that we'll do a video with Michelle on that, because she's got all of our landlords
she's got
on board with that. Monique, hi Nathan, are you saying that the tenant is unable to pay for their rent due to hardship and they can prove it, they are still owing that money? Yes. When someone moves into a property, they're contractually obliged. It's just the same as when you purchase a property, you are contractually obliged to pay that mortgage. If not, the bank may be able to say, okay, well, you owe us back that money, or take ownership on that front. But this is a very prime example in this last 6-month period where some real estate agents look very stupid out there, and they're reducing their rents on behalf of the owners, just saying, oh, we suggest that you give them a free rent and all this sort of stuff. I had a mate, and he asked me, he was like being a bit opportunistic, and he goes, oh, what's the regulations? So I was like, none of, he's actually one of our landlords.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and he said, what's the regulation? Because I want to try and get like the rent, right? And he hasn't paid rent for 6 months.
What? And the
agent was perfectly fine. They go, oh, that's okay, pay back $100 per week. You were contractually obliged as a tenant. Obviously, we're not going to send big heavy people with tattoos on their face over their house and like shake them down and whatnot. But it comes down to the communication of the asset manager, making sure that everything is watertight for you as an investor. So if there's a genuine issue there and something's wrong, we are robots, we're human beings that will point you in different areas where you can try and I know that when I was up in Queensland, there was 2 tenants that I was told of that were in hardship. and actually the staff had nurtured them and taken them and shown them where to go to get the support that they needed to continue the obligation. So it's not like we're, you know, pay your rent, knock, who's this on my door? Like, it's not, yeah, we want to, yeah.
But you have to prove it, that, you know, that there's a genuine issue.
Yeah. Michael said, do you have a maintenance team? Yes, we do. Depending on where your property's at, we've got people all over the place that we can help you with. Ash said, hi Birchie, what do you charge for management / rents collected fees? So the management fees, they differ state to state. There's standard set of charges. If you want to reach out, you can contact us at admin@binvested.com.au. Or give us a call at 1300 367 925, and my team will put you in contact with the right people to talk about in your neighbourhood. I will just click a slide which we talked about here beforehand, how to cut ties with the real estate agent. There was an extra slide. For those of you that are thinking about making the shift and come over to us to manage your assets, we have a little promo on at the moment. We want to show you how good we are before you start paying us. So if you bring your property over throughout this month of September, we'll give you 1 month management fee for free, so you can make the switch. See, you know, if you like us. If you don't, well then, you know, happy days. I'd like to know why you don't like us, and you know, what we've done wrong and how we've let you down.
How we can fix that.
How we can fix it. But if you do want to make the switch and give us a try, it's very simple. You can reach out to your real estate agent or reach out to us. Just reach out to us. We can take care of the whole thing for you. The agent won't call you. They won't make you feel bad. That's something that we'll take care of throughout the process and help you, have a bit of a plan and a strategy around how you can sort of maximise your rental return over the course of the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months as well. As for our fees and charges, we've just asked beforehand, our fees and charges are very much in line. Sometimes they're cheaper than real estate agents, sometimes they're a little bit more expensive than real estate agents, but they are very much, if you're paying a real estate agent, you need to pay a real estate agent to do block your ears, Vanessa, to do a shit job of managing your property, where you can pay us, which is an investment firm, the same money to manage your assets and to do a much better job and get a higher rental return for you and make things more seamless for you. And it's much the muchness of
so
what
someone's asked a question here.
So
okay.
Sorry, email us at admin@binvested.com.au or call us at 1300 367 925. I should have had a little email address on here. It's not on here. What was the other question?
So there was one here that said something about I can't wait to finish. Where is it? Finish our property to get it rented out.
Oh, Josh, yes, Josh. I was going to come and see you, Josh, the other day when I texted you. I texted Josh and said I was going to come out, and I was trying to make it was on my to-do list on the weekend to come out and see you guys doing your reno. But
so the photography is 165.
165. So Josh wants to spend his 165 to get the photographer to do.
Of course, definitely.
Josh is awesome. So. Regan asked, should the landlord have direct contact information of their property manager so they can call them directly? Yes.
Yes, we are putting that in. Every property manager in our office will have their phone, mobile number on there.
Yeah. Have you ever pushed the limit too far and as a result lost a good tenant? From Simon. So that has occurred in the past, but out of my personal 200 properties that I own, if we think about that over the last sort of 15 years, I've probably had maybe 2,000 tenants in properties that have turned over, or maybe like 1,500. I don't count how many tenants I've had in my properties and overall, but I probably only twice I think I've done that, and once because the tenant was like I wasn't happy with them, so I was happy with them leaving. And another time where I remember that I pushed it a little bit too high, but then I had renegotiated with the tenant and we came to an agreement to only go halfway with the rent increase and everything's fine. So having that communication, not just going, oh, the tenant's moving out, that's fine, see you later. We want to make sure that there's a limit there. And generally, with those rent increases, timing is crucial as well. Like, for example, in some of the markets of where we manage, they're not all in Sydney, they're out of Sydney, they're in regional parts of New South Wales, regional parts of Queensland, coastal parts, touristy parts of states. When those leases end is crucial. We want to make sure, well, let's say, for instance, someone signs a lease today, it's the 1st of September, October, November, December, January, right? If they wanted a 6-month lease or a whatnot, or if they were a tenant moving in May and wanting a 6-month lease, that means that their lease would be up just before Christmas or just after. We want to make sure that, you know, when their lease, we want to drag them over that Christmas period. So we might do a 4-month lease. Yeah. And at that point in January, you don't see too many rental properties on the market. So when those leases expire and we go to put those rental increases in, the tenants will be looking at, you know, other said properties in the marketplace and saying, okay, what other properties are available? We look at the properties that are available, and there's nothing else out there, and the rents are not normally higher at that season or that period of time, so we can command a higher rental increase for you and get greater cash flow. So most people think in 12-month or 6-month leases. We think in, you know, 4-month leases and 7-month leases, 8 months,
16 months, anything.
Yeah, people think in $10 rent increases. I think in $3.50 if it has to be, right? Like whatever it is, because it's all the cash flow that's going to be coming back to you in your.
And also the other thing with, you know, how you're saying go past the Christmas period, which is so crucial.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's empty over Christmas. You don't want that.
Yeah.
How do property managers never have any good contracts for reasonable price? Contractors. Oh, it's regarding contractors. We do. Compared to what you have.
Wider property managers, yeah. So with it, you want to make sure, you know, compare with your agent, make sure that they've got, you know, the people on that can help you that are more discounted than, you know, out there.
And the main thing is also to make sure they've got their licenses, they've got insurance, professional indemnity, because you don't want tradespeople working on your property and then something happens and you can't get them to come back.
Yeah.
And it's happened with where tenants have gone and got someone.
Yeah.
And you just tell them it always come to you.
Yeah.
Let us know in writing.
What about agents do not do?
Inspections over 2 years, but collect the fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does it cost to find a new tenant when the current one moves out, and how much might the property be empty? So, just realised I spilled water on myself. As for the cost for releasing a property, generally the cost should be 1 week's letting fee plus the marketing fee. So it might be, you know, I don't know the exact numbers at this point in time, but it's just an advertising fee. It's not much. It's maybe $100, $150.
No, it's a little more than that because we do premium ads.
Yeah. So a couple of $100, $300 to find a new tenant. In a property, flip-flops or barefoot is best. Exactly. Don't do the shoes, don't do the tie, don't do the shoes. Chris will get back to you shortly. Let's have a chat. Personal matter there. That's the best way to benchmark my investment property. We covered that off before. What about more structural improvements rather than cosmetic ones? Cosmetic improvements generally lead into the structural ones. You want to try and look at managing an issue before it turns into a structural issue. But if that is the case, then you have to attend to it.
What about most? Okay.
Just having lots of questions here. Vanille, are there purchasing opportunities for an investor with a limited borrowing capacity, $200,000 to $300,000 investment? I purchased properties for as little as, the cheapest one I bought this year was $10,000. I just bought a block of land the other day. I bought 15 blocks of land from my investors for $10,000. I thought they were $10,500. I told everyone $10,500, but they're only $10,000 square for a quarter acre block in Australia. So it's cheap as that, but on average, you know, I'll pick up in capital cities between $100,000 in a capital city to $350,000. So I purchased from coast to coast in each state. You know, Sydney, I pick up for, I had a property in Sydney today for $220,000 actually. It was a property in Sydney. I've got a house that's coming up in Sydney, picking up for under $200,000 a house within like an hour and a half. This other property was in Sydney market. It was a one bedroom, very neat and tidy property. You don't even need to do any work. It's a very structurally sound building. So you can buy in the Sydney for, you know, $200,000 to $300,000. Pick up in Brisbane for $100,000. I've got a deal in Brisbane today for $110,000. Rent for $220 a week. Average about $150. Rent for about $250. So they're out there. Melinda asked, what's the security difference for having a property manager compared to a private rental? I'm going to leave this one to you, Vanessa, because you have seen people over the years that would have rented privately. Who would go to a private owner rather than one through an asset manager or a real estate office? And what are the risks about doing it privately with not having access to all the data and checks?
Yeah. So first of all, the database.
Yeah.
And you got
the credit checks.
Yeah. What we're checking on the tenants. And I've had people come to me after renting out their properties themselves and saying, now I have to take this tenant to tribunal, or they're not paying the rent. What should I do?
Yeah. And
then it's too late by then, because you can't, or they didn't have insurance because nobody advised them, and they're trying to manage this property on their own.
We actually have a lawyer that used to work in fair trading that works inside of Blink to make sure that every part of compliance is in check, right? Looking at, you know, if someone needs to go to court, we don't even need to go to court nowadays on, you know, on matters, because we don't bring in those problems. When you're renting out a property privately, it's you and the tenant. The tenant knows your emotions. Could be a con job, ripping off people every day of the week. You can't blame a third party when it's a third party. People say to me, why don't I go and negotiate properties off an owner directly, and why do I go through a real estate agent? I would never, ever in the life of me want to speak to an owner. They think their private house is a castle, they're worth so much more to be able to sell it for and whatnot. Same thing comes down. I'd rather have the agent there as the intermediary, because you can't blame it. I never want to know any of my tenants. I never want to talk to any of my tenants personally. That is my team's responsibility, i.e. the asset manager / real estate agent.
And I actually, I don't know if there is a bit of time, but I had a landlord who was actually a police officer, really tough person. And she said to me, I'm coming to tribunal with you regarding her tenant. And there was just something here broken. And when we were there, she burst out in tears. She was saying, why are you doing this to me? And I'm thinking to myself, this is really rather strange, because you know, this tough person breaking down in front of her tenants.
You're too emotionally invested. Like,
very emotionally involved.
If you go to your property, you see that there's a scuff on the wall, you'd be like, why'd you do that for? Whatever. Like, it needs to be handled with diligence, with process, authority to the tenant. Most of it is authority to the tenant to be able to keep them accountable to the obligations to the property, and being able to maintain those things.
Also legislation.
Legislation as well,
Well, if you're managing your property yourself, you're not up to date with the latest legislation.
Yeah, exactly. Legislation changes that much. I don't even know the legislation. That's why Vanessa and the team, and Michelle and her team, and all the Blink teams out there, you know, manage that stuff, because they're on top of this and at the forefront. I see here, Michael, I have 4 properties in Queensland. that's great. I want to manage those 4 properties for you. Reach out to the team, admin@binvested.com.au, or call us at 1300 367 925. What else have we got here?
So the complex has 1 meter. Okay, so that means water efficiency certificates. How do you go if the complex only has 1 meter?
So
then you can't charge.
You can't charge. So if there's only 1 meter, it comes to the owner. Can you live anywhere in the country to get to our services? I can see people commenting in the question box which don't even live in this country. So I help people from all different parts of the world. Happy to help out, whether it be from investing or managing the assets, building that portfolio out. Obviously today we're just talking about property management and real estate agents and how to maximize the cash flow on your properties. I have done other webinars on buying the assets, structuring the portfolio, building the portfolio and whatnot. But I help out from all different aspects. So yeah, if you need help, happy to help out wherever I can and my team can. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Steve, I'm going to get back to you on your email. It's not too bad. It's a question about a property that we're purchasing, so it's different to do with this. It's a question about a pest and builder report here. Hey Birchie, how are you applying your approach to rent increases over a 10-year period? Are you going for an extra $10 per week, per year, or is it more staggered? Thanks for the great content. Thanks, Luke, for the feedback. I go into the rent on an annual basis. I actually review on a quarterly basis. So, different markets, different suburbs, different types of properties within a suburb, there may be more availability at different times. There may be more stock on the market, and we need to reassess as to what stocks on the market, what listings are on the market, what have recently leased, what is the parameters of the market, and how high we can push it. Because we want to be at the market. We don't want to be, shooting ourselves in the foot. You can't just go out there and put in $10 everywhere. Sometimes I might increase it $5. Sometimes I may not increase it for a year or 2. The last 2 years, I've been looking at maintaining tenants in a property for the landlords and for myself, because some of the markets have become soft. This market, being more aggressive, is pushing those rents up. So we need to continuously be looking at it. It's something to look at on a monthly and a quarterly basis to be able to, go to specific properties, specific markets, and increase those returns. I do a similar thing as well when it comes to finance. I run a finance company, Zinga Finance, for those of you that don't know. And when I get, say, an owner that has a property that may revalue really well in a suburb or in a complex or wherever, I go back through all my investors and see who owns those complexes as well. And it's something we do by matching up Blink data and Zinga data to be able to see who has the opportunity. We'll come back to you and say, hey, look, someone else in the complex, someone else in the street with similar properties just pulled out 50 grand worth of equity. Let's see what we can do to pull out your equity. That's a deposit for another property. So, yeah.
There is a question here about leasing. 3 people on Centrelink payments and 2 want to move out. How do we deal with the situation? Depends on who, have they actually all 3 signed the lease? Then they're all responsible for the rent?
I wouldn't be letting off the hook, right? That's security, right? So you've got 3 people, those other 2 people are tied. I love when doing a deal, right? This is way outside the property management role. I want to have other people involved, because then I've got them as human collateral. It's like you're in a hostage scene in the movie and they're like, do it or I'm going to blow the head off, right? And it's like, if the tenant has those other 2 people attached to the lease, those 2 people need to make sure that they're good. One other thing that I've seen over the years has been, if you do fall in that position, you could possibly get maybe a parent or someone to guarantor that. What would you think?
Exactly. I've done that, especially if they're just started their first job.
Yeah.
And things like that. But these guys seem to be on Centrelink.
On no job.
No job.
Centrelink's not that bad, right? Like if you've got that coming through, you've got rent coming through. People used to laugh and say, "Oh, you buy a house or houses and stuff like that." It's like, I know that rent's going to keep cash flowing through. So,
There's ways to manage that, but basically, depending on who signed the lease, they all are responsible.
Is that something you can look after?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Julian, do you know much detail in setting up a company for the housing assets? Do you recommend it? I know people use houses to lower their tax bracket, but this is fine until someone sues you. I have a different, I own an accountancy firm, Ridwan Hannon is from One Path Accountant, so I can hook up a chat with him. I own a law firm as well, and I have different areas of law that we specialize in. One of my lawyers said that I'm one of the most dangerous people he's ever met in the terms that I've got a mind and I understand the law, and it's important because you need to look for the left hook. Like, as you don't build a property portfolio of 200 assets of your own. People try to throw daggers at you. There's always something that comes your way. With the aspect of setting up a trust, there is many areas that you need to take into consideration. I have about 80 different corporate structures in my position. If someone ever tried to sue me, they'll spend the next 10 years trying to work their way through what they could possibly attack me for. I have seen people with large portfolios with no trusts and no structures like that. I bought my first sort of like 25 properties under my personal name. I still buy properties this day under my personal name. There is more aspects to consider than being sued. I can make sure that someone gets sued in a trust and take their properties under a trust if they get sued. So don't think there's asset protection 100% if it's just under a trust. Getting finance for properties under a trust, you need to consider the implications of being able to get the finance, because it does fall under commercial lending at that point. How they view it, that goes to a different sort of setup. More of commercial is a hybrid between commercial and residential, even if it's a residential property. Tax implications. Most specifically, I do these things called a map session, it's a strategy session. Vanessa, when she came on board, she was like, why is Nathan walking around just talking in a room in the office for sort of like 6 hours a day or whatever, and wonder what he's talking to these people about, and drawing and stuff. I run strategy sessions where I help people, build out their portfolios for them, and quite often I see people that have got very great positions, people that are just starting out, people that have got really big positions that are really, really bad, and some of it, like most of the time, it's just poor structuring. So getting the structure, if you haven't bought a property yet, or you are looking at buying a property, make sure you get the right advice when it comes to structuring. Most accountants will try and sell you a trust. You might pay your accountant a few $100s a year to do your tax return, and that's it. You might call them a half dozen times. They don't get paid that much. They get paid for running more corporate and commercial sort of entities. If you set up a trust, you're probably paying $1,000 a year to maintain that trust. The accountant will be getting more fees. So be very cautious on who's giving you the advice and what that advice could mean for you in a pro or in a positive or negative way. Looking at most people's portfolios that have trusts, I think to myself, like, you've really screwed up. Like, they can't sell the property out of the trust, otherwise it'll be up for taxes, capital gains taxes, stamp duties and whatnot. But if they leave it under the trust, like let's say for instance you buy a property in New South Wales, I digress from topic of property management and that by this, and I'll try and wrap up in a minute. If you buy property in New South Wales under your personal name, there is a land tax free threshold of about $700,000 to $800,000 at the moment. It changes annually. If you buy property under a trust, there is no land tax free threshold. So you could buy 2 properties under your personal name and not be paying land tax. If you buy those first 2 properties under a trust, you'll be paying land tax from day one. If that property has some tax deduction or some negative gear component to it or whatever that you could claim on tax, it is stuck in the trust. So I have people coming to me saying, I've got these properties, someone told me to buy it under a trust. How do I make those losses? There's negative losses that are trapped in that trust. So just be very careful when getting the structuring, you get the foundations right to your portfolio. Just like a house, if you build on dirt, you're going to see cracks in the wall, and it's going to look like something from a third world country. If you get the foundations right, the right structure, you can build like Lego blocks. Amanda's got another question here.
Yes, about the one person wants to stay on. So Amanda, probably the best thing to do would be to give me a call or send an email to admin@binvested.com.au, and we can take it from there, because there's a lot more to that question that you've asked. We'd have to look at how it's set up in the agreement.
Cool. And Julianne, pleasure for answering that question. I just want to close off on that one again, just on the trusting. Everybody's position is different. Trust can be very wonderful things, and they can be, detrimental to one's position. Make sure you're getting your advice from someone that's not trying to sell you a trust or take you away from a trust. Everybody's position is different. Your financial positions are different. I can see everybody in this webinar. I know people personally in this webinar. People's positions are all different. You've got different houses and different places you're watching this from, different devices, and everybody's position on lifestyle is different. So it depends on what's right for you. If you need help on that, as for everything else today, give us a buzz, 1300 367 925, or email us at admin@binvested.com.au. On that note, I just we'll wrap up now. I want to say thank you, Vanessa, for your awesome work. Vanessa's doing amazing things.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't even think some of the things were possible in property management, right? And it's really awesome to have you on board, and thanks for sharing your Wednesday evening and with everybody here and being a part of their evening.
Well, if you can help them, of course.
Yeah. That's what you do. That's what we do. So
exactly, that's what property managers and asset managers do, right?
That's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch up soon. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. Stay safe, be awesome, and look forward to helping you kick ass with your goals. Bye for now.
See ya. Bye bye.